The 60s had a sexual revolution, something a mainstream modern audience might see best through the character of Austin Powers. That bright-colored, silly sense of play and not taking things too seriously, but still rife with inherent misogyny. Don't click away. I promise that despite starting with something heavy like misogyny, the rest of this video isn't going to be focused on that specific angle too much. But it is worth mentioning because I think that's the exact dynamic that both the comic and the movie that we're discussing in this video are ensnared in. Today we're talking about Barbarella. So the original story is an Italian comic that came out in the 60s, created by Jean-Claude Forest. That was a bestseller, and I happen to have here this large, huge, beautifully large format hardcover. I've actually had this book for years and just never got around to reading it, and this video was the perfect excuse. You might wonder why I got this book and then I didn't read it, but I'm actually a fan of the movie, and I just wanted to read the original comic at some point to know more about it, what the tone was and everything, and it just never felt like it was the right time. The book reprints the first graphic novel that originally collected the comic strip together in one volume and gained notoriety for being arguably one of the first adult-oriented comic books, so that's pretty noteworthy. This volume has been translated from the original Italian by fan-favorite comic writer Kelly Sue DeConnick. Now, largely due to the nature of the original comic being printed in a strip format, the book doesn't really have an overall arc, instead starting in the middle of a crisis and then moving Barbarella from one situation to the next. And in that format, I didn't really enjoy the book all that much, if I'm being honest. Forrest's creativity is in full force throughout the book, introducing many different concepts or ideas. The blind angel named Pygar, Professor Ping, the Black Queen and her planet of Sogo, even the excessive machine, which can kill somebody by orgasm, and spoiler, these are all elements that the movie retains. The artwork's alright, reminiscent of a kind of rudimentary Valerian and Laureline sort of brushwork. I assumed the original strip was simply black and white, while this reprint adds the color blue. One flat color to give the book a little more dimension. I think it was a nice choice, if I'm being honest. I'm not sure the simple artwork like this needed to be viewed in like this really much larger format. And the comic version, which started in 1962, certainly is a product of the times. Like, there's plenty of nudity and sexual situations, certainly, though the feminist angle seems to be mostly explored for its sexual identity and being drawn by a man with man's fantasies. This makes sense to me. I don't know that I could truly suggest this to anyone other than as an artifact of a specific time and place to be read for the experience, but I just didn't find it particularly engaging personally. And now the movie. So, how's the movie? The movie's really no less nonsensical, and I love the movie. It was made in 1968, and I think it's the better product. It's got a bigger pop culture presence, and for good reason. Everything in the comic is brought to life on the screen during the decadent 60s, and while we can be just as critical of the final results and the politics in the film, the results in live action feel even more harmless because of the cartoonish and goofy nature of the movie. It's almost a comedy. But maybe it is a comedy. Maybe it's an understood comedy. A misunderstood comedy. It's such a product of the 60s. Like, look at that shag carpeting in her spaceship, and it's on the walls too. All of the designs are products of the swinging psychedelic 60s. The bizarre textures and colors for everything look like the entire movie is a precursor to music videos. And the items are abstract and corny but entertaining. Like, it would be so easy to point out how Barbarella demonstrates so little agency of her own and literally falls into one hazard after another, often rewarding her saviors with sex, but it's not as though Fonda herself didn't recognize that.
I've complicated feelings about the film. See, what I just said was the President of the United States chose Barbarella to fly her spaceship, which she did all by herself, to the planet. So that's kind of feminist, right? I'm the one that's going to rescue this planet from evilness. But then once I get there, it's all about making love and having strange sexual adventures. So there's that, which was a bit objectifying of me and of women. So I had a little problem with the film because right after the film, I left my husband and came to the United States and slowly became a feminist. So I kind of, for a while, rejected the film Barbarella. When I regained my sense of humor, I watched the film and I thought, oh, and I grew fond of it and embraced it.
Fonda was indeed married to the director Roger Vadim for that brief time, but Barbarella also marks a turning point in her career, after which she became much more aware of politics and active in them.
They just think the far left has gone so nutty on so many issues.
That's what they're being told.
That's what they...
By people like you.
Fonda is a treasure. Her politics are still pretty great and not lost in the sauce like some other people.
Who is the far left? What do you mean when you say far left?
I mean, I could give you a million
Yeah,
examples.
well, give me one.
Okay, the NAACP.
You think the NAACP is far
Could I
left?
finish my...
The smug wrecker. I love it. And she has a great attitude about the film, looking back at it now and making peace with it.
I'd like to do it over again. We made some mistakes. It could have been a really strong feminist movie. When they put me into that machine that was supposed to kill me by orgasm, instead of being kind of scared and everything, I should have gotten in and laughed. No question I'm going to blow the fuse. I wouldn't have been afraid at all.
I mean, what more could you ask for? Barbarella the movie still stands out today among its contemporaries and really against any era. The comic book counterpart isn't something that connected with me personally, but I do think the movie does a damn good job of bringing that craziness to life. There have since been other incarnations of Barbarella in comic form, most recently I should say, by Dynamite. I've only read a few issues from each of these series, so I wouldn't say I could judge them with total confidence on whether or not they pay off for the readers, but each has its own distinct way of dealing with Barbarella that I think inherently underline the challenge of Barbarella in comics as a franchise, like a clear intent and theme for the book. Batman fights crime because his parents were killed by a mugger. That's pretty relatable, being a sexually liberated intergalactic space agent who's still relegated to using her sexuality as her skill set against forces malevolent but murky in their agenda of random bad thing. Like, that's harder to define and also make work outside the framework of a girl in peril adventure. I think that the Barbarella comic miniseries should be treated like a DC Black Label comic project. Pick definitive writer-artist teams that will help make each book like an event. And I'm not talking about quality, right? Like, these artists that are in these new series are great. But if your concept for the book is murky to an audience, you could make great strides by giving them known quantities on the creative side. Like, if somebody said Trad Moore was drawing a Barbarella comic, I would take interest. If Greg Rucka or Ram V or Grant Morrison were writing, like a Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely Barbarella comic would be incredible no matter what they did with it. Like, that's my takeaway, to make each book an event with specific talent that would define it beyond the franchise, copyright, canon world of Barbarella, which I would say most people don't really even know what that is. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, there are so many ways to show your support. Hit the like button to subscribe, buy me a coffee. The link's below next to a Patreon link. If you can spare a dime, join up for free. Trying to get as many subs on there as possible. Thank you for your time and your eyeballs, and I'm going to see you next week.